just opened up a whole new way of living for us. We're hooked, man.
Welcome to the Active Travel Adventures podcast. I'm your host, Kit Parks. I am so excited to introduce you to Sally today, who I first met via email that she sent me, and she basically made my day 2 days in a row, first with the email and then today talking to me and you about discovering adventure travel through this podcast. The reason I'm so excited about sharing Sally's story is not because she has kind words to say about me. Yes, that makes me feel good, but more importantly, it makes me believe that my podcast is achieving its mission, which is, as I even put on my website, I seek to inspire and empower you to lead a bigger life through adventure travel. That sounds well and good, but when I get emails where somebody's actually done something because of this podcast, and then I'm hoping that those people are inspiring others to get out there and do it because, as you'll hear from Sally, you've heard from me, you've heard from my sister Terry, it's life-changing, and that's what I want you to feel too. I want you to feel that empowerment, that self-confidence that you get through adventure travel. That's my whole reason for doing this. I discovered it, I got hooked, and I want everybody else to at least know about it and try it. So with that, I can't wait to share with you, so let's get started. A little more than a year ago, I got a nice email from Lori about doing the Costa Rica Camino and how she and her husband were planning on doing it the following year. And over the course of the next few months and even up to her trip, I would get the occasional email asking a question. And then we became Facebook friends. I followed her journey when she and her husband actually completed the Costa Rica Camino earlier this year. And I got to thinking, it made me feel really good. A lot of times I'm just sitting by myself doing this show, hoping that I'm inspiring you to lead a bigger life through adventure travel. That's the whole reason I do this. And Lori, among many other emails that I've gotten over the years, tells me so. And I got the idea, first with Lori's, and then when I got a recent email from Sally saying how the show was helping her to step out of her comfort zone and go on adventures that she never would have dreamt of doing before. I was like, instead of me just hearing it, I think it would be helpful and inspiring if you heard these lessons too. So I'm going to start a new segment on the show that I encourage you, if because of this podcast you've actually gone on an adventure that you never would have dreamt of doing had you not heard other people like myself and others like me that are just doing it and training for it and going out and having a blast. If that's you, please reach out to me at kit@activetravelaadventures.com. Let's get you on the segment. Let's have you help inspire the next person to get out and find their next big adventure. In the future, there'll just be little snippets, but I thought I'd start this new segment off with a complete conversation that I had with Sally. And then if you head over to the website, I will be building a stockpile of your stories. Look, just go to the website, activetravelaadventures.com, go up at the header, and go to the tab, say listeners, and you'll be able to see the picture of what the person looks like. You see, they look just like you. We're all just getting out there and doing it, as well as being able to listen to our conversation. So if you just need some inspiration one day, just head there and you can listen one after another to my brief conversations of people who actually took that first leap and that first step to decide they were going to do it. They trained for it and they actually set out and went on an adventure. I wanted to have Sally's first interview. She's the first one I spoke to about. I'm still going to hope to get Lori on here. She's still settling down from her trip. But it was so poignant for me and I just felt so good about it that I wanted you to hear the emotion in her voice of how going on an adventure and doing things you thought maybe out of your reach are not out of your reach if you train. And so anyway, so today's show is just going to be an example of what these listener stories are going to be like. And as I collect them, they will be on the website and snippets of them will be on the podcast in the future. So I would love your feedback on this whole idea. Please reach out to me at kit@activetravelaadventures.com. And again, if you are one of those people who went on an adventure because of this podcast and did something you didn't think you were going to do in particular, reach out to me. Let me know your story. Let's get on the phone and record it and get you on that website as well and as a snippet in the podcast. Thanks again for listening, and here is my chat with Sally.
I'm a little choked up because I'm finally meeting you. I feel like you're one of my best friends right now. You're my adventure mentor. I swear, I don't think I would have accomplished anything without your inspiration and encouragement. I'm going to choke up. It started with the fact that you did that North Island, New Zealand adventure. I mean, I was in hysterics with the picture of you getting out of the raft. So you see everybody high fiving, and
I know they didn't even know I was not in the raft. And then did you see the one of Bill with the oar sticking up in the air?
exactly. That made me laugh so hard. And I thought, wow, this woman is really someone I can look up to. And and so because of you, I listened to that podcast. I listened and I follow your Resilience and Grit podcast. Oh man, it's just you've really changed my conception of my life and who I am and what I can do. I was told, "Oh, you're looking at possibly a wheelchair. You'll never walk barefoot again. You'll never do this, you'll never do that." And on my 65th birthday last April, we did the Tongariro Alpine Crossing.
How about that? How about that?
How about that?
And that's a hard hike too. That's not a pansy hike.
No, not a pansy at all. It was decent, and the weather was pretty severe, and we had 80-mile-an-hour gusts.
Oh, wow.
And I don't weigh much, I'm like 110 pounds. I had a hard time standing up straight. At the top, it was fantastic. It was just really great.
So had you been listening to the show before that, or you just happened into the North New Zealand by accident?
I think what I did was we were trying to visit New Zealand because we've heard so many wonderful things, not as an adventure, but just as a fun, safe, interesting place to go. I Googled New Zealand and one of your podcasts came up. And so that's how I discovered you maybe last January.
Okay.
I started with your New Zealand podcast, and then I just loved your being and how game you are and how curious you are. And so I just started listening to more and more and more of your podcasts, and specifically the North Island Adventure. After I listened to it about 3 times, we signed up with Active Adventure and did it.
And wasn't that trip all and more than what they did you get to do the raft? Because that's not actually part of the trip.
We did not. And I was slightly disappointed, but we watched some people do it and it looked treacherous. It was really, maybe a good idea. We didn't do it. We were pretty exhausted at that point. And we only did the second half. We only did 5 or 6 days.
That's what I did. I just did the back half because I tied it in South Island.
It was just perfect. The leaders were great too, really lovely young women. The food was great. The information was wonderful. The mountain biking. Oh, I've never done anything like that.
I know. I'd never done anything like that before in my life. I couldn't believe it. On that hairpin turn.
Yes.
Well, I guess they gauge each group individually. So our leader, I had 3 crazy people in my group, and they were all fearless, and I'm the scaredy cat. And they were able to do a lot more than they would have done if it was just me, because I'm sure I was the anchor. But we did this one hairpin turn down a ravine. Did you do that?
Yes, that one hairpin turn. Oh my goodness. Yes.
Oh my God. No, I chickened out and I tipped over on that, sadly. I think I could have done it if I did it again, though.
Yes, you would have. I was so nervous about that we ended up taking an REI mountain biking lesson here in the Bay Area prior to going, because I was so afraid of doing that. And it was great.
But that's one of my favorite memories is that day. I loved that day.
Yeah, I felt like I was 8 years old.
And I felt like I like when I get out of my comfort zone and try the things I'm a little scared of, because you're still in a controlled environment, so you're probably not going to get hurt.
Right. But still, it's not, no, absolutely outside the comfort zone. And the caves, that was.
Oh, I know.
That was psychologically very challenging.
No, I love that.
Yeah, fantastic.
It was a fantastic trip. If somebody's saying, what's the most fun? I'd say that's probably the most fun trip I went on, because every day was fun.
Really?
Yeah. Oh gosh, it was fun. Just every day we're doing a blast. Like you said, I felt like a little kid.
Every day we're doing like 2 or 3 things. And it was great food. I don't think I've ever eaten that much in my life. it was great. And then the next thing is I listened to your Machu Picchu. And so we're going to Machu Picchu in October, November. We're going to hike the Inca Trail. And boy, are we training for that. I mean, you really do need to train.
Yeah, and if you can get to Cusco, I got there a week early because I don't do altitude well, and that and the pills, I was fine.
Right. I think we are. I think we're doing the rainforest, and we're doing Quito, and then we're going to Cusco. And I think we're in Cusco at least 3 days, if not 4. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, we're going to try some altitude training here in California up at the mountains in Lake Tahoe.
Okay, good.
And just see how that goes.
And that if you have time to do that Humante Lake day trip, that's a good test because that's a hard hike. That was harder than Machu Picchu.
Say that again.
It's Humante, H-U, like human, and then T-A-Y at the end.
Oh.
So my sister Terry and I did that as a day trip out of Cusco. And it's hard because it's up and it's higher than your Machu Picchu. So if you do fine on that, you're not going to have any problems. And then some people were winded and all that, but everybody did it, even those that weren't maybe as fit as they should have been for that trail.
Right.
I'm sure you'll be fine, particularly if you train.
Right.
But I won't get the altitude pills unless you're anti-pill because I do think they do help.
Okay.
And I had no side effects.
I might just fill a prescription for that. I'm just so grateful to you for.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. I mean, you've just opened up a whole new way of living for us. And it's, we're hooked, man.
Well, that was me when my friend, I didn't think people like me could do stuff like this.
Likewise.
And when my friend said, come to Nicaragua, I was like, are you kidding me? And so I went and it totally changed my life. And that's why I do this podcast. I was like, if I didn't know about this stuff, other people don't know about it.
Right.
And it just totally changed my life. It changed how I travel.
What year was that?
That was 2017. So it hadn't been that long.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, no, I didn't even start hiking until my 50s. And I was so scared of the woods. I wanted to learn how to section hike the AT. And
yes.
So I went to a school where I met this guy, John, and we became, once a year, Merry Christmas, how was your year? And he was always doing these great trips, but I thought it was for like athletes. And so he said, we're going to Nicaragua in February. Why don't you come? And that changed everything.
Wow.
From there, every trip I seem to meet people, which brings on another adventure. So somebody I met on that trip was from Scotland, and he was having a hiking birthday party in May.
That's right. I just listened to that podcast.
So that's how I got to Scotland and did the walking holidays. Now I'm hooked on those. Those are great. They move your luggage. That's really nice. Right?
Yes. No kidding. But I also don't mind the trips where 50% of the time we're on our own and the other 50% were with an organized group.
Oh, yeah. Totally.
I love the blend of that.
Yeah. And I like when I'm going to be particularly in the mountains. And if I don't know the mountains, I like having the guide. I like having a van at the end. So
yes.
Figuring out the logistics. In fact, I'm working on this week's podcast. I'm a little bit behind, and I had there was a national park when I was in the Balkans. I wanted to spend a week hiking. I get there, I stay at a lodge at a spa. They don't even know the national park's there.
Right.
There's no way for me to get there. I spent a week at the spa instead of in the mountains I planned to go to because I couldn't get there. And I didn't want to walk 6 miles to get there and then hike and then walk back. If I got a cab there, could I get a cab back? I said, forget it. It's too clunky for me to try to do it. I couldn't rent a car. I can't read the alphabet there.
Right.
You can tell if it's a stop sign or a go sign. I needed somebody to hold my hand on that part.
Yes. Yes, totally.
So for adventures, I like having somebody that knows what they're doing.
Completely.
The rest of it, I'm much more comfortable just wandering on my own and doing my own thing.
Right.
At my own pace.
Right. Definitely. I think we do, the adventure part usually with a group, and then any major city, urban adventure we generally do on our own. And it's so much fun. I astounded by what I've been learning, how much I really didn't know.
Well, and it's just in how much you can do. And every trip I get a little bit more confident. I was like, oh, I can do this. And then I just do a little more baby step. Oh, I did that all right. I might blow up, but then I'll learn something from it. And then just now I feel like not that I'm invincible, but and not fearless, but I'm willing to take it on.
Right.
I don't like to go anyplace dangerous, but if I want to do something that's a reasonable person should be able to do, I'm going to do it and not worry that I can't do it for some reason.
Right. That's it. I loved your, the power of yes. That was great. My motto when I was performing used to be, when in doubt, do it. Just do it. You'll never, even if something happens, something goes wrong, you make a mistake. That's one of your superpowers as well, is that you're not afraid to make a mistake.
And I think it's funny sometimes,
Oh,
that's where the stories come from.
The best stories.
It's not when you do things right. It's when you blow it and everything blows up in your face.
Absolutely.
So what kind of dancer were you?
In my time, it was a combination of jazz, tap, and what they call now American theatrical jazz, which is sort of like Broadway dancing. So we pretty much did everything that was asked of us. Partnering, I was the girl that did all the lifts.
Oh, that's incredible.
Did ballroom, tap, pretty much anything that was asked, we did it.
Amazing. And Steve, you're a gymnast? Steve is a gymnast?
Yeah, actually, Steve's back downstairs. He was a competitive gymnast all through college. And so we both have more than our share of injuries and surgeries and whatnot. I have this really cool dance physical therapist. Her name's Kendall Alway. And I bring in my MRIs to her. And she'll say, "Oh boy, that's Aaron. Aaron, come take a look at this. This is bad." And then she'll turn to me and she always says, "You are not your MRI. You are not your bone scan. Are not your suffering. You are a force." And then she'll put me right on track, and you accept that the balls of my feet are shattered and that it is what it is. And then you just keep going. And it works. That positive, I am not my illness diagnoses.
Really powerful. And with the right mindset, it reminds me. So right before I did the Inca Trail, another listener, a friend of mine just finished. She's in Cusco. So we met for coffee.
Yeah.
And she had just finished.
Oh, wow.
And back to Ohio she goes. And like 2 weeks later, she was on her bike and something mechanically went wrong with the bike. So she's walking it. 2 pit bulls ran from the yard, mauled her.
Oh.
She ended up losing a leg.
Oh.
And so now that was last fall, or last maybe October, November. The trauma, and she had just retired, so she's about to start a new life, and the Inca Trail is like the start of the new life. And so here her whole world gets blown up, but her positive attitude, once she got over, well, not that she's over it, the shell shock, but once she accepted, okay, I don't have a leg anymore. And then now she's biking, she's hiking, she's gotten used to this metal leg. And then last week I met a man, he didn't lose his leg, but he's got, this woe and that woe and that woe. So he's going to do nothing the rest of his life because he's already decided that everything's broken on his body, even though he was walking fine. I could see nothing physically wrong with him,
right?
But his attitude is one of defeat.
Yes.
My girlfriend's one is one of screw that. Yeah. I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to figure out a way. Right. And so she's accommodating and making it happen. I'm so proud of her. I need to get her on the show too, because she's an amazing heroine. Yeah, she's a heroine.
Oh, that would be yes. Oh, I love that. I love hearing that. Sometimes I can fall into a little self-pity and a little defeatist mindset occasionally. And why? That just ends your quality of life. So I absolutely agree with these adventure travels, trying things outside your comfort zone. And boy, the feeling of self-confidence that you get, it's just, it's priceless.
And it translates in the rest of your life.
It does.
I see it all the time now. I just, my self-confidence has grown so high in 6 years. Not that I don't think that I'm cocky, but I feel I can do it. Bring it on. I can handle it, no matter what it is. I feel like I can handle it. And well, I was always, somewhat confident. It's different. It's totally different.
And it translates into your relationships with other people as well. You start seeing the possibilities and goodness in other people. as opposed to the things that they do that are annoying or defeatist. It translates into your whole experience with the world. It's just fantastic. I'm so grateful.
You're the reason I'm doing this.
Wow, you definitely succeeded with our lives, changing our lives. So yeah, it worked.
Oh, good. Spread the gospel of getting out there and adventuring.
Yeah, I tried. I tried to. I send pictures of us at the top of every mountain,
Yeah. And let people know they can do it too, because they're like, oh, Sally can do it, but I could never do it. She was an athlete,
Yeah, yeah.
you know.
Well, a lot of my friends, my physical therapist wept when I finished the Tongariro Crossing. She was in tears because she was so proud of me. And
Wow.
a lot of my friends knew me when I wasn't even able to walk very well. So they were all stunned.
Wow. Well, how did you get your body to be able to do that?
How did I? Well, I think part of it was the North Island Adventure Company's training protocol that they send you when you sign up, that say 8 weeks prior to this trip, we would like you to do this on the first week, this on the second week, and they ratchet up your exercises. And that's what I did.
Right.
That's what we both did. And I just kept, I don't know, safely training. Started using kettlebells, started doing things that I've never done before. I've never hiked before. So we started hiking.
Oh, wow. You went all out on the first one. That's one of the epic trails of the world.
Yeah, we really went for it. My husband is very disciplined. He's was an engineer and a gymnast. So he has a way of setting up a training schedule for us.
Mm-hmm.
And we just went for it. Every day we did something training wise.
Mm-hmm.
It was just been incredible, discovering our own city, hiking the mountains and staircases here and taking mountain bike lessons. And we just really, really dove in.
And so he sounds like he's all on board.
Oh, completely. Oh, yeah. I was in some pain, but the curiosity created more, I guess, adrenaline. And then my pain was not even second in my mind. I didn't sense the pain or the fatigue because I was so curious and game. I'm still kind of surprised that I'm still able to do what I'm doing.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you come up with the idea of doing the New Zealand and spring it on Steve, or was he listening at the same time and you both said, hey, that sounds like fun? Or how did that all come about?
It came about because we are thinking of possibly relocating. And we love San Francisco, but we were thinking of retiring someplace a little bit more in nature. And everyone has always spoken of New Zealand as being just a paradise. And so we just wanted to give it a glance.
But visiting New Zealand versus hiking and mountain biking, it's a completely different trip. So
yes.
How did you decide that, we want to try it? Because that's really different.
It was your podcast.
Did you approach your husband and say, hey, let's do this? Or
I think so. I said, you're not going to believe this woman. This is what she did. And she is near our age. You're younger than we are, but she's near our age. And I think we should go for it. And he was completely game.
And you're very lucky there, Sally, because so many husbands aren't. You wouldn't believe the letters I get.
Really?
That I'm ready to rock and roll, and the husbands just want to sit on the couch and watch TV.
No. Oh, no.
Yes. So you're very, very lucky.
Oh, that's great to hear.
Yeah, so give him kudos. Every time I see a guy actually doing something, I say, good for you.
Oh, wow. Okay. I didn't realize that. All right.
Yeah. So it's, no, you're very blessed.
Oh, I'll let him know.
Now, I think also Californians tend to be more active than the rest of the country. So,
do we? Oh, okay.
Yeah, well, you just have more outdoor things to do and the weather tends to be a little nicer. But even around the world, because I have people now that I've met from my travels and my podcast, and they're always complaining about their husbands not wanting to do anything.
Oh my goodness.
So they go by themselves. Yeah.
Wow.
Amazing how many women are now, and I like to think because of the show, getting the confidence, just try it.
Right.
Going in with a guided group, they're solo, but they're not alone.
Right. Also, I'm kind of an OCD warrior, and so many of your podcasts just dealt with my concerns and gave me advice and hiking boots, how to pack certain items. Your toe sock liners, give me a break. That was a gift.
I love those. They've saved my.
Yeah, I have to wear little silicone toe spacer thingies, and they're perfect with toe sock. And your apps, you've checked off most of my worries. Most of the reasons I would say, well, maybe we can't do this because of checked off. It's been.
If I miss something, you're always welcome to email me, or you have my number too. You can always call me.
Oh, thank you.
I've made every mistake out there, and I try to figure out how can I not do this again. So I probably run into whatever your problem is and come up with some kind of a technique that I'm happy to share. I just may have forgotten to put it in the show.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, I remember that when you mentioned you went hiking with your mom. And
oh, that was horrible. Jeez.
I'm so sorry. So what I did was, I've decided I get men's hiking shoes now because my feet are so destroyed that men's just fit better. And now I've decided on a half size longer, decided yesterday because of your mom's story. So,
that, and your feet get swollen
completely.
Too. So if you're in those shoes all day, if they fit in the store and you've been walking, 15 miles, your feet don't fit in them anymore.
Yep.
And I've developed some bunions too. I got something when I was doing that sheep herding with Angie on the Power. Yes, that one.
Oh,
that they still haven't really recovered. Yeah, I put those inserts in. That was a big mistake.
That was a great story. Man, that was a great story.
But I couldn't stop because I wouldn't keep up with the sheep. They were going so fast. I'll laugh about that trip the rest of my life.
Right. That was a great podcast. And then I just listened to that wilderness safety person.
Casey, he was a mentor to me.
Yeah. And that was great. And I love the comment of you have to tune in to when a blister is starting.
Right.
Then you take 2 minutes, change your socks, you put some moleskin if you need to. That was great advice because I'm always blistering out. And I know it. I can tell. And I try to tough it out, but it's just not worth it.
I think he said that's the biggest problem people do is say, it'll be all right. But then it's not all right.
It's not all right.
When your feet hurt and your teeth hurt, one of those two things, then you're miserable.
Yep.
At this point in the show, Sally and I started talking about her Peru trip, and a lot of that was rehashing the episode that I just did. So I cut that out. But when we started talking about my sister, I thought that would be apropos to this episode. So I'm going to cut right back into where I ended out from our Peru talk.
You're lucky you have your sister to travel with. That's so cool.
Yeah. So she got into this with the same crew I went to Nicaragua with. So the next year they were going to Costa Rica. And so I said, Terry, you want to come? And she went. Now she's hooked. In fact, she's hiking the White Mountains right now. So she's doesn't even need me anymore. She can go do it by herself. And so that's all she does now is adventure travel.
Wow.
And she's 5 years older than me, fitter than I am too.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So what we're thinking now is because of you, we're thinking maybe we'll just sell our home and put everything in storage and travel for like 4 or 5 years and just do it.
It is nice not having to worry about a house.
Right.
I will say that, but now I've been in my house probably 6 weeks now.
Oh, congratulations.
It's nice to nest too. Yeah, it's nice to nest as well. But I was homeless for 3 years.
Right.
And I was definitely feeling the urge that, okay, it's time to settle down. I'd been to most of the places I really wanted to go to. And now if I get them in, great. But if I don't, I did the chunks I wanted to do.
Awesome.
So,
God, that's so great.
Yeah, there's benefit to doing that. And it's cheaper too, because once you get out of the US, for the most part, it's cheaper than the US.
Wow.
So it's like living for free.
And then I would love to, be somewhere for 3 months at a time rather than
Right.
6 days. I think the deep dive would be in each location would be really fun. So yeah, we're considering that, honestly.
And you can always change your mind. You can do it in 6 months. Hey, this wasn't what we thought it was going to be. So then you get back and you get off again.
Right. That I haven't conquered. I haven't conquered the spontaneity yet. I fill out a 3x5 flashcard for every single day when we travel. And I've got the itinerary really, really planned. So haven't yet broken into the have 3 days and let something happen mode yet. But maybe that'll be the next hill to climb.
It could be, yeah. It could be. It doesn't have to be the whole trip. Just pick one day. We're not going to plan anything. Just see what serendipity brings, or plan one thing each day, and then let the rest of the day be whatever pops up.
Right. That is outside my comfort zone, and I'll be working on that. That'll be great.
No, it's fun. It's fun. But when you do things the way I do that, and not generally speaking culturally, I'll miss things because I might arrive in a town. The thing I really want to do is close that day. And
right.
So there's a benefit to doing a lot more homework than I do. There's got to be a happy medium in there somewhere.
Right. Right. I try to do a deep dive, meaning historically, culturally, before every trip.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that maybe limits us a little bit. Yeah, I need to work on spontaneity. I need to loosening up a little bit and letting something happen.
For me, it doesn't really sink in until I've actually seen and touched it. So I'll tend to read up on it afterwards.
Yes, we have some friends who do that. They read afterwards. Yeah.
I'll get the Wikipedia version before I go.
There you go.
And then I'll read more about it because I care about it. I've seen the people in the museums, and it means something to me then.
There's an emotional connection to the landscape, to the people that really fully flesh out your experience completely.
And just travel to me is just such a eye-opening and an appreciative thing. I come home very, very appreciative for what I have.
Yeah, very grateful. Hey, listen, do you speak a foreign language?
I speak Spanish. I call it caveman Spanish. They understand me, but they'll laugh. And I can understand, I can communicate. And it's better than beginner, not quite. It's basic conversational, I would say.
That's great. I need to work on that as well. I do not speak a foreign language, and I think that also is slightly limiting with regards to your interpersonal contacts.
Just chatting with the locals, but so many people speak English now, and particularly the young people, because with the Cartoon Network and all, then the movies, the most often you can find somebody that speaks English. I very rarely run into a problem with that.
Cool.
And usually it's out in the countryside where they don't really get tourists, and I'm on a bus somewhere and but pantomime works. And sometimes, again, some of the funniest stories, in fact, the same thing you'll hear about on this episode I'm working on right now. I didn't realize when I went into this courtyard that this was their home, and I asked to eat. They fed me, and I thought I was in a restaurant. And they were so nice. They did charge me minor, but I'd smelled the pig earlier that day and it wasn't ready. So I'm going to go back there for dinner. So I went back.
Oh, so you just sort of wandered into someone's home and said, "Feed me."
I wandered into their courtyard in pantomime that I wanted dinner, and they fed me. Right?
Oh, that's good.
So that's the benefit of not speaking the language, because I don't know who this crazy lady is, but she seems hungry.
Poor darling.
Yeah, she sits me in the kitchen. I thought I was going to sit in the picnic tables in the courtyard of the restaurant.
Oh, that's hysterical. That's a good one.
And I didn't realize it at the time. It took me a long time to figure out, oh my gosh, that's what happened.
Yeah, that's really funny.
I just knew something was wrong, but I couldn't figure out what it was.
That would be a funny podcast, wouldn't it? To have people offer all of their stories and how they turned out. That's good.
And that had reminded me too. It's also going to be the show, but I'll tell you now. So my girlfriend Els were in Bangkok, and she foolishly was wearing a tank top, and you can't go in the palace showing your shoulders. So we had to find a long sleeve shirt for her to go in. Right. And we were in the section, they're just selling electronics. And finally we see a clothing store. So we go down there, we're going through the rack, It was the woman's laundry. She's out drying her clothes. And we're pawing through her clothes looking for something to buy. And so once the lady realized it, she was cracking up, she's like, these are my clothes. Right?
Oh,
We never could find a shirt. We were just in the wrong part
that's
of town.
really
So
good.
she never got to go in the palace. Yeah.
Oh, just her underwear or something. Oh my goodness.
Funny. But again, it's the foibles. Those are the funny things. That's what you remember.
They completely, and they're the best stories for your friends, I swear. Oh, I love it.
Well, I'm glad you got into all this stuff.
Too.
And it warms my heart to no end. Because sometimes I'm just sitting out here on my porch and I think, I hope somebody's listening. I know they are, but unless you actually talk to somebody, because I can see the download numbers, but unless you actually hear from somebody that takes the time to write, or it makes you know that it's worth it.
Yeah, I think your idea of some sort of blog where people can add their comments about where they've been because of the podcast, that'd be fun.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I'm finishing getting set up with the house, and then I want to focus on doing stuff like that. And I even have a Facebook group that I don't do anything with, we've got a couple hundred people in there, and I just let it sit there, but I haven't had time because I've been traveling, and
right.
It's whack-a-mole trying to get the show out on time, but I should have time once I get settled in, and I want to redo the website and all those kinds of, I have the time now to do some fun things.
Great. Awesome.
And any idea is always appreciated.
Okay. I'll start making a list.
All right. It was Sally. I really appreciate it. So I want to thank you again for your time. You made my day again, 2 times in a row. I appreciate it.
Lovely meeting you.
I hope you enjoyed listening to Sally's story. I know it was inspiring to me, particularly. Think back. Sally was told that she might end up in a wheelchair, and she ends up learning how to hike and climbing the Tongariro Crossing in New Zealand. That's a pretty challenging hike that when they have warning signs, stop, don't go any further if you're not in shape, kind of a warning. It goes to show you that in some cases it's your mind, not your body, that's blocking you. And Sally's story is a perfect demonstration of that. So kudos to you, Sally, and thank you again for sharing with us. And again, if you've got a story to tell, reach out to me at kit@actortraveladventures.com and let's hear it. Let's let everybody hear it. Thank you, and thank you for listening. Until next time, this is Kit Parks, 100% Adventure On.